working on.
Cool. So you guys probably have entry number 3, Jeff Hibbert, queued up. So we're going to go ahead and get ready for that. If you're watching on Vimeo, here we go. 3, 2, 1, unpause.
Wow, somebody made a Justin TV channel for us right now. I just realized.
We are the Justin TV channel, sir.
Oh, okay. Oh, then never mind.
Yeah.
Someone. We did it.
Same logo every time. I'm getting kind of bored with that logo.
Yeah.
Why does everyone use that?
I like
cool.
this.
This is the one I watched, and I said, "Is that me?"
No, that's what we all said.
Apparently, I'm in that. Yeah, I'm in this. So already, I like
Good work.
it.
You're really
Yeah.
Real
Yeah,
quick,
I didn't let you guys know
real
I could do
quick
this.
note there, where they're sabering and then they go into a double wrist grab. That's not a very. That's a pretty clunky transition into that. If you're going to go from a saber into a grappling sequence, you want to. It has to have an actual progression with closing of the distance. They actually are at full melee range, and then they engage into that. That's one note I'm going to give off the bat.
Yeah, I like the I really like the energy on this one,
Yeah.
and I like what they're doing with the camera in a lot of ways. But it's to Eddie. Have you mentioned it? I mean, we've talked about it before. But targeting.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about it a little bit. If you're gonna swing a stick at somebody, you have to aim for their head or other part of them that's gonna die. You actually have to have intention of hitting your target. You can't just aim and then have a saber block it. And if that saber wasn't there, if your saber has to try to hit something.
Yeah, if it was gonna go 3 feet over your head anyway, then why did you block it?
Yeah, then just let it go and then step back and come in with a stab, and guess what? You win.
I like this.
This is a very nice moment where
just destruction.
Boom! I like that a lot.
An
And
actual
the bowl's
physical
in half.
destruction.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
bowl's in half.
But I will say I don't understand why a lot of people do little interludes where they run into people and it's like, oh, it's weird now. Like,
Yeah.
I don't. It's not just this one, but it happens a lot, and I don't understand why people do that.
I don't know. I think it works. I think they're playing with this concept of a lightsaber fight in an inappropriate context.
Right.
That's another. And I don't mean to interrupt, but that was another example where the blades were at tension, and you can kind of see my fingers doing that. The blades were tension, but there's a track where all the other guy had to do was slide his blade down. He would have ended it.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna do blade tension, it has to be sort of at essentially a perpendicular way, so that there's no way that your blade can pass through.
There's a lot of humor and a lot of personality in this entry, which
Yeah.
I appreciate. It makes it
And like
fun
you
to
guys said,
watch.
there's a lot of energy. I do believe, obviously I'm not as, I also love this moment. It was a great
A lot
moment.
of clever use of the environment and the
Yeah.
situation that
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
in.
And
Absolutely.
a lot of nice segues between one section of the environment and
Absolutely.
the other. But I really believed in this one, and a couple of the other ones, but this one particularly, that they were really going for it. That
Absolutely.
They were actually trying to, and it's, we've talked about it on commentaries before. You know, reality. It's a Sanford Meisner definition. The definition of acting is the reality of doing. If you have a strong action verb in whatever you're doing, that's your spine or whatever. And a lot of times it looks like in some of these fights, these guys are just banging sticks, and you can't tell what they're doing is other than banging sticks.
Right.
But here it's very clear that one guy is trying to get away, and the other guy is trying to kill that guy, and a couple others too. But I think something as simple as that helps to clarify so many of the other downstream decisions that you make in choreography and
Yep.
shot composition and everything else.
There's a very sort of almost improvisational feel to a lot of the bits of choreography here, in that just sort of like I feel like I'm watching someone record these guys fighting, and they haven't, like, they're kind of, working it out as they go. Obviously it's a little more sophisticated than it would be in real life, but it's got a very sort of live feel to it. And one thing that they do well that some beginners could probably learn from is they're pretty good at selling the reactions to things. Like, if he gets hit in the face, it's not the thing that people usually do. They go, blah, blah, and then they're continuing to fight, and then, well, why did you do that? Like, what was the point of doing that? But they get hit and they kind of reel back and stumble, and they really they work on selling those.
And that's what I'm saying. This, as far as like a fight first and foremost needs to tell a story, and this fight tells a story. They don't do a lot of talking in this, but the fight tells the story, and I give it a lot of credit for that.
It's always very smart to make your audience laugh in the last moment, to leave them laughing.
Yeah.
And that was a good comedic
You got out of
moment.
that shot right at the right time.
Yeah, it was
Exactly.
funny.
Yeah.
Although I will say that I would have found it funnier if the guy wasn't talking. His
Agreed,
reactions, his silent because everything else was silent.
Yeah.
And his silent reactions and performance would have sold that. And once he starts talking, it sounds like a put on.
That's another very good rule of thumb for acting in general, is behavior is worth so much more than words.
Yeah.
If you can express a sentiment through just behavior, you are so much better off than having to verbalize it.
I got a couple interesting anecdotes from this guy that I want to bring up because they relate to making lightsaber fights. I'll just read. I've chunked out parts of these emails, so I'm not going to read you the whole email, just the stuff that I think is worth bringing up. And this is funny, the end underwear gag. He apparently spent some time trying to find the underwear that would read as most girly on screen. Back into the lightsaber shit. The force push was done with fishing line. In my footage, you can actually see the fishing line catch the light for just a few frames. When I watched the behind the scenes of RVD2, I was wondering why they used black fishing line. Now I understand. If it's black, you can easily see it and get rid of it. How do you guys feel about that?
That's actually exactly the opposite of why we use black fishing line. To be honest, the reason is that when you yank on it and it blurs, the black will disappear, and you have to spend less time painting it out. There are fewer frames where you can see it, and that's the point of it.
When things blur against each other, dark things become more submissive in terms of, like, that's why lightsabers are generally a bright color. In our case, we use a fluorescent red just because it shows up on digital cameras so well. But if you had a black lightsaber that you just covered in black electrical tape and swung that thing around, you would immediately stop seeing it. It would go away.
It's interesting to me that that wire removal. Trying to not have to do wire removal is like a lost art that people are having to rediscover, because back in my day we couldn't remove wires, so there's many things that you can do to hide them. If you're using fishing line, fun fact. Especially if it's heavy fishing line. First of all, use the lightest you can get because it'll be thin. But also give it a quick hit with just rub some sandpaper down it, because that kills the shiny
sheen.
coating.
Yeah.
And it won't kick light so hard.
Trey Strokes.
Again,
Trey Stokes.
That's very useful.
I've done
old school.
I've done entire movies, where if the wire showed up, it's in the movie. There was no removing it. So and feel free. Anything goes. Feel free to bring a set of colored Sharpies and paint half of it blue and half of it red to match the background or whatever you need to do.
In Godfather, that's how they did when Sonny gets shot to death. The face squibs that he has. That's how they use clear fishing line to pull those things off that release all the blood capsules.
How did you guys feel about the fight? Did we go into that after the fight was over?
This was one of my favorites. I enjoyed this one a lot.
Cool. Trey?
I like this. I'll hand it over to the choreography part of the team. But as a film, I thought this was a great little, funny, low budget, entertaining. I was not, I never got bored watching this one. I thought it was entertaining. I'll give it that, absolutely.
Ryan Wieber.
I agree. It absolutely was entertaining. This easily is in my top 5 of this year's entries, and it's got I really appreciate a lot of personality and the humor of it. It makes it fun to watch, and that's important. And the other thing too is, this is a lightsaber choreography competition, but for me, even the stuff that wasn't necessarily explicitly lightsabers, that counts. The sort of the way that they move through the place and the jokes that they do with the environment and things like that. That all matters, and that counts toward your total, so to speak.
Dorkman?
Yeah, use of the environment is a big deal. I also found this one really entertaining, and it was definitely a contender for me as well. But ultimately, in terms of they move around a lot. They not just through the environment, but around each other, which helps a lot with the choreography.
It doesn't get stagnant.
Yeah. But I had a lot of issues with the targeting. A lot of times with this one. So
Eddie?
Building off that, there were some targeting issues. There was not only that, but and a big part of the targeting issues I find in a lot of fights is understanding range and distance. You have to be if you're too far out from the guy and you swing, you're not going to hit him. So it's gonna make it look like a stick bash whether you mean to or not. Even if you're aiming for his face, if you're not in the right range to follow through with a kill shot, then then why throw that fight? Why throw that shot? So for me, it's the thing that I had. This was a really great location, and I love the progression of room to room. But I feel like sometimes, and maybe in the kitchen and a couple other times, they didn't have the right distance to properly engage and really sell some of those shots as much as they would have liked it. With that said, I really, really enjoyed watching this as a short film, and I want to see more from these guys specifically because it was very charming.